When will comic books be popular again? Hi, I'm Jordan the Nerd of Golden. Earlier this week, there was the argument again about manga versus American comic books, and then I was watching the newest episode of Jenna Anderson's Go Read Some Comics, talking about people's really wanting to see an adaptation of the Absolute Universe by DC Comics into like film and TV already. And it made me think about the question of when will people appreciate the comic book medium for the comic book medium itself, like the art as an art form, instead of all of the other things that are around it, like the television adaptations, the movie adaptations, all of the merchandise that people love, and the video game adaptations and book adaptations of these comic book characters. I feel like when you compare the numbers of like who's reading comic books, yes, things have been improving in the comic book industry over the last few years, which is a good sign. But by comparison to television, to movies, to books, to video games, all the units are extremely low compared to all these other forms of popular entertainment, and I don't really understand why. Comic books are an incredible medium as an art form. Yes, I understand that the industry as we understand it is largely dominated by the superhero genre, but that doesn't mean that there aren't plenty of excellent comic books that aren't superhero comic books that should be selling in the 100,000 unit plus range, or like 500,000 units, or like even a million. Like, there are some exceptions to this, like anything by Captain Underpants creator and the Dogman creator. Those are comic books. They sell by millions of units, but that's kind of like an exception and beyond what we consider the traditional direct market of comic books. But there is that market to kids, to adults who will like comic books as themselves, but aren't necessarily interested in reading about superheroes. So I just don't understand when comic books will make that break. Like, in the same way a few years ago, D&D went from like kind of a niche thing that was growing a little popular to selling out Madison Square Garden. That's insane. When is comic books going to have like that kind of quick rise in popularity again? Because comic books used to be sold in the millions of units by lots of different titles, not just one or two. Most of them sold in millions of units in America for decades. And then it wasn't until like the collapse in the early 90s that we really saw units being sold in 10,000 units, or even on the high end 150,000 units for most of the time when I was reading comics from middle school onward. And I know that things are improving. I've seen the numbers, but at the same time, like, we still haven't hit that big break. And when do you think we're going to hit that big break in which comic books are just, again, accepted as a good form of art that can be read and appreciated on its own?